19 years. The last time I saw my father, Dr. Eugene Price, chairman of the Washington State Medical Board, he told me I was throwing away 4 generations of physicians for a man who worked with wires. My mother, Dr. Ruth Price, head of pediatrics at Seattle Children's Hospital, handed me a trash bag for my belongings and said, "You're not our daughter anymore." I was 19, 7 months pregnant. And the man they were talking about, the one who worked with wires, standing outside in the cold November rain, holding an engagement ring he'd paid for with 3 straight months of overtime. What my parents didn't know was that the man they dismissed that night would become the best father our daughter could ever have. And they definitely didn't know that 19 years later, a newspaper headline would force them to face the truth about the kind of healers they really were. This is that story. It was Thanksgiving, 2006. 12 relatives were seated around my parents' dining table in Queen Anne Hill, the part of Seattle where doctors and attorneys quietly prove they've made it. Every person at that table had either doctor or esquire in front of their name. Everyone except Marcus. He wasn't even supposed to be there. I had told my parents we were only dating. But I was already 7 months pregnant, and by October, it had become impossible to hide it beneath oversized sweaters. My mother noticed first. She always noticed everything. "Hollis," she said, her voice slicing through the dinner conversation like a scalpel. "Stand up." I stood. The room fell silent. 12 pairs of eyes shifted immediately to my stomach. My father slowly set down his fork. Behind him, mounted on the wall, hung the Price family crest. Beneath it were the Latin words, "Curare est officium," to heal is our duty. My grandmother had founded one of Washington's first women-run medical practices in 1952. In our house, that crest wasn't decoration, it was doctrine. "How far along?" my father asked. 7 months. "And the father?" "Marcus. Marcus Cole. He's an electrician. We're getting married." One of my uncles, a famous cardiac surgeon who had pioneered valve replacement procedures on the West Coast, actually laughed. "An electrician?" he said. "Hollis, please tell me this is some kind of stress-induced fantasy." My mother didn't laugh. Instead, she reached into a sideboard drawer and pulled out a thick manila folder. Prepared. She had known. Of course she had. "I asked Whitaker Investigations to run a background check," she said calmly, sliding the folder across the table. 3 weeks ago. The air in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. She opened the file and began reading. "Marcus Cole, age 21, high school diploma, trade certification from Seattle Central College. Father, Victor Cole. Medical license revoked in 1993 by the Washington State Medical Board. Charged with illegally prescribing controlled substances to wealthy patients in exchange for cash. Abandoned his family in 1995. Current location unknown." She closed the file and looked straight at me. "You expect us to attach the Price family name to the son of a disgraced doctor? A high school graduate who works with his hands?" I should have defended him right then. I should have walked out. Instead, I said quietly, "Marcus's mother worked 3 jobs after Victor left. School cafeteria, night janitor, weekend catering. Marcus started working when he was 14 to help support them. He's nothing like his father." My father stood up, 6'2", silver hair, the kind of voice that could silence an entire hospital boardroom. "Hollis," he said calmly, "you're going to terminate this pregnancy. I'll arrange the procedure myself, discreetly. You'll take a year off, then start medical school at the University of Washington as planned. This mistake doesn't have to define the rest of your life." "I'm keeping the baby." Silence. Then my father said quietly, "Then you're not keeping this family." My mother gave me 1 hour. It was 9:47 p.m. when I checked my phone, just before they disconnected my family cell plan while I was halfway through texting Marcus. A few days after that dinner. Seattle, 41 degrees, cold rain. I packed 2 garbage bags, clothes, a photo album, my laptop, and the University of Washington acceptance letter, a full pre-med scholarship I'd framed back in April. I left it on my desk. They could take it down themselves. When I walked downstairs, my mother was already removing my senior portrait from the hallway wall. 12 other family photos remained exactly where they were. Only mine was gone. "Mom," I said. My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. "Please, I'm still your daughter." She didn't even look at me. "No," she said. "You were my daughter. Now you're just a cautionary story we'll tell at dinner parties." The front door was heavy imported oak. My father had installed it when I was 10, after becoming chairman of the state medical board. He said a house like ours should have a door that reflected its status. I opened it. Marcus's truck, a 1998 Ford F-150, white paint faded and rust creeping along the wheel wells, sat idling at the curb. Exhaust curled into the cold rain. He saw me and stepped out immediately. He didn't ask what had happened. He just took the garbage bags from my hands, placed them carefully in the truck bed, and covered them with a tarp so they wouldn't get soaked. Then he walked around and opened the passenger door. The interior light was broken, but I could still see his face. 21 years old. Electrician's apprentice. Making $18 an hour. He was wearing the only suit he owned, the one he had worn to his mother's funeral in 2003. "I already called the courthouse," he said softly. "We can get married Friday." That's when I started crying. Not when the door closed behind me. Not when my parents disowned me. But when Marcus opened that truck door and offered me a future. I tried once, just once. Months later, late in my pregnancy. I was sitting in our tiny apartment, 480 square feet in Ballard, $650 a month, staring at my laptop as I wrote an email. Subject: Please. Mom, Dad, Lena is due next month. The ultrasound says she's healthy. Marcus just got promoted to journeyman electrician. We found a small apartment across the city. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm only asking you to meet your granddaughter once, please. Hollis. I sent it at 11:34 p.m. I remember the exact time because I spent the next 3 hours staring at the screen, waiting for a reply. The answer came at 8:02 a.m. the following morning. But it wasn't from my parents. It came from their assistant. Dr. and Dr. Price have asked me to inform you that they do not have a granddaughter. Please do not contact this email address again. Claire Whitaker, Executive Assistant. Not even a message from them, from their assistant. I printed both emails and placed them in a file folder. I labeled it, Lena's Story, when she asks why she has no grandparents. She asked when she was 7. I told her, some families are smaller than others, but ours has all the love it needs. She never asked again. 3 days later, King County Courthouse, room 301. Friday afternoon. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like dying insects. We needed 2 witnesses. We had none. An elderly woman was sitting in the hallway waiting for her friend's divorce hearing to end. Her name was Margaret Doyle, 73 years old, a retired school teacher. She agreed to sign our marriage certificate. The second witness was a lawyer named Daniel Carter, 34, killing time between court appointments. He had kind eyes. He looked at us and smiled. "You two look like kids yourselves." Marcus shrugged slightly. "We're old enough to know what we want." The judge moved quickly. Maybe she had seen too many shotgun weddings to care. "Do you, Marcus Cole, take Hollis Price to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "And do you, Hollis Price, take Marcus Cole to be your lawfully wedded husband?" I looked at him, 21 years old, still wearing the same suit from his mother's funeral. The tungsten carbide ring we had ordered online for $47. "I do." We signed the certificate. I signed it Hollis Price Cole, keeping my maiden name as my middle name. Marcus noticed but didn't comment. The marriage license cost $60. We walked out of that courthouse married, no reception, no family, no photographs, except the Polaroid Margaret Doyle insisted on taking with her camera. 3 days later it arrived in the mail with a handwritten note. "You'll want this someday. Trust me. Margaret." That photo still sits in our kitchen today. Marcus's hand rests on my 7-month pregnant stomach. We're both smiling like we've just won something. because we had. Not long after that, Lena was born. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. I remember the weight because my parents would have wanted to know. For a moment in the hospital, I almost called my mother. Marcus saw me staring at my phone. "Don't," he said gently. "She didn't earn this." He was right. Our apartment had 1 bedroom. We gave it to Lena. Marcus and I slept on a futon in the living room for almost 2 years. 90% of Lena's things came secondhand. Goodwill, Craigslist, hand-me-downs. Facebook Marketplace didn't exist yet, but if it had, we would have lived on it. Marcus worked 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. as an electrician, then from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. He picked up Craigslist handyman jobs, installing ceiling fans, replacing outlets, rewiring old houses where homeowners couldn't afford licensed contractors. Meanwhile, I took medical coding courses online through Seattle Central College, about $800 per semester. I studied while Lena napped, took exams while Marcus watched her. 18 months later, I earned my certification. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was coding surgical procedures in the same hospital system where my parents practiced medicine. Different building, different department. We never crossed paths. But sometimes I saw my mother's name on patient files. Dr. Ruth Price, Pediatrics. Her signature at the bottom of consultation notes. I would code the visits, process the insurance claims, and make sure the families didn't go bankrupt paying for treatment. That was healing too, just not the kind my parents respected. One night, Lena developed a fever. 103.2 degrees Fahrenheit. She was 11 months old. I grabbed my phone. My mother's number was still saved. Dr. Ruth Price, head of pediatrics. She would know exactly what to do. My thumb hovered over the call button. Marcus saw me. He didn't say anything at first. He just gently took the phone from my hand. "We'll go to the ER," he said quietly. "We'll figure it out." The bill came to $2,400. We arranged a payment plan, $50 a month for 2 years, and we figured it out. March 15, 2008. The housing market had just collapsed. Foreclosures everywhere. Banks desperate to unload properties. That's when we found our house. 4,521 Greenwood Avenue. 3 bedrooms, built in 1952. The electrical wiring was a nightmare. Old knob and tube lines, aluminum splices, decades of amateur repairs that could have burned the place down. Most buyers walked away immediately. Marcus walked through the house with a voltage tester and flashlight, inspecting every outlet, every switch, every junction box. "Electrical system's a disaster," he said in the kitchen, "but I can fix it." "How long?" 3 months, nights and weekends. "Can we afford it?" He spread the inspection report across the counter and pointed to the numbers. "With the market crash, the bank's asking $345,000. We've saved about $8,000, enough for the down payment. The mortgage will be around $950 a month, cheaper than our rent once I finish the rewiring and the house gets reappraised." I stared at him. "You've already done the math." Marcus smiled. "I always do the math." So we bought it. Marcus rewired the entire house in 11 weeks, every night after work, every weekend. Lena, 18 months old, would sit in her playpen watching her father pull wires through the walls. Her first complete sentence wasn't "I love you." It was "Daddy, fix light, close enough." We painted Lena's room yellow, her favorite color. Marcus installed a ceiling fan with a star pattern light that scattered tiny constellations across her bedroom walls at night. The day we moved in, Marcus was replacing an outlet in the kitchen. When he removed the old cover plate, a folded piece of newspaper fell out of the wall, used decades earlier as insulation. He opened it. The Seattle Times, March 17, 1993. Doctor loses license in prescription scandal. The article described how the Washington State Medical Board had revoked Dr. Victor Cole's license after an investigation into illegal controlled substance prescriptions. Marcus's father. Front page of the local section. I was in the living room unpacking boxes when I heard Marcus step outside. A few minutes later, the smell of smoke drifted in. When I went out to check, He was standing beside the burn barrel we'd been using for construction scraps. The newspaper was already reduced to ash. "Just found some old trash stuffed in the walls," he said. I didn't press him about it. Lena started kindergarten at Lawton Elementary in the fall of 2011. On the first day of school, Marcus showed up in his work truck and rewired the building's main electrical panel. He did it as volunteer work. No charge. The principal tried to pay him, but Marcus shook his head. "My daughter goes to school here," he said. "I want it to be safe." In 2015, Lena was in 5th grade and entered the science fair. Her project explained how electricity travels from a power plant to a light bulb. Marcus helped her build a miniature circuit with LEDs and a 9-volt battery. She won first place. During judging, one of the teachers asked her, "Did your parents help you with this?" Lena said proudly, "My dad's an electrician. He taught me everything." The judge smiled. "And what do your parents do?" "My dad fixes electricity," she replied. "My mom fixes hospital bills so people don't go broke. They both help people." We took home the blue ribbon, framed it, and hung it on her bedroom wall. It's still there. In 2018, when Lena was in middle school, she came home unusually quiet one afternoon. She barely touched her dinner. Later that evening, after Marcus stepped outside to check the mail, she looked at me and asked, "Mom, why don't I have grandparents?" I had been preparing for that question for 12 years. "Some families are smaller than others," I said carefully. "My parents and I disagreed about something important a long time ago. They made their choice, I made mine, and we don't talk anymore." "What did you disagree about?" "They didn't think your dad was good enough," I told her. "I thought he was perfect." She considered that for a moment. "Were they right?" "What do you think?" She glanced toward the kitchen. Marcus had just installed new under-cabinet lighting that week, LED strips he'd bought at cost from a supplier. The warm light filled the room. "I think they were wrong," Lena said. "Me too," I replied. She never brought them up again. Lena attended Roosevelt High School in Seattle and graduated in June 2024. Her GPA was 4.0, her SAT score 1,520. Not perfect, but impressive. She was accepted to several universities: University of Washington, Washington State, and Oregon State, all with strong offers. In the end, she chose the University of Washington, enrolling in the pre-med track. "Why pre-med?" I asked her one evening. "You don't have to prove anything." "Mom," she said gently, "I want to be a doctor because of you and Dad." She gestured toward us. "You code surgeries so families don't lose their homes paying medical bills. Dad rewires houses so they don't burn down. That's helping people." She paused. "And maybe I want to prove something too. That you don't need a medical dynasty to become a doctor." Marcus, leaning against the kitchen doorway, smiled. "You're already ahead of most med students," he said. "You know what real work looks like." I never became a doctor, but I spent 15 years inside the medical system. From 2008 to 2012, I worked as a medical billing clerk at Swedish Medical Center, First Hill, earning $18 an hour. It was part of the same hospital network where my parents practiced medicine. Different building, different department. Once I saw my mother across the cafeteria. She either didn't notice me or pretended not to. From 2012 to 2016, I became a medical coding supervisor at Providence, Seattle, earning about $32 an hour and managing a team of 8. We handled everything: ER visits, surgical procedures, organ transplants. I got very good at it. From 2016 to 2020, I moved up to Hospital Operations Coordinator at Evergreen Health in Kirkland, earning $55,000 a year with benefits and retirement matching. Then from 2020 to 2024, I became Revenue Cycle Director at Swedish Medical Center, making about $78,000 annually. That position moved our daily life slightly outside Seattle's central neighborhoods, far enough that I didn't risk running into my parents at the grocery store. Along the way, I earned my professional certifications: CPC, Certified Professional Coder, CHAA, Certified Healthcare Access Associate. I framed both certificates and hung them in my office. Marcus liked to joke about them. You've got more letters after your name than half the doctors you work with. Not the ones that matter, I'd reply. He'd grin. The ones that matter are on the paychecks, he'd say. You're keeping people from going bankrupt. That's healing. In September 2019, the Seattle Times published a feature article. Dr. Ruth Price honored for 30 years of pediatric service. There was a photo of my mother accepting an award from the Washington Medical Association. She was 60 years old, smiling beside colleagues. The article praised her dedication to compassionate, family-centered care. I found a printed copy in the hospital break room. I don't know why I picked it up. I made it through 3 paragraphs before I had to stop reading. That night, Marcus found me sitting on the bathroom floor at home, the article crumpled in my hand. He didn't ask questions. He just held me while I cried, then quietly threw the paper away. We never talked about it again. Meanwhile, Marcus was building something of his own. He filed the paperwork for Coal Electric Services, Washington Contractor License Number CCB 782451. At first, it was just him. Then he hired a 19-year-old apprentice named Evan, who reminded me of Marcus at that age. Then another, and another. By 2024, the company consisted of Marcus and 3 apprentices, running 2 white Ford Transit vans with Coal Electric Services printed in blue across the sides. The office was still our spare bedroom. Annual revenue hovered around $480,000. Not a Fortune 500 company, but honest, stable, built with care. Marcus specialized in residential rewiring and solar installation, the kind of work that quietly keeps families safe. His rule was simple. Do it right, not fast. Treat every house like it belongs to your own family. His first big project was rewiring a historic craftsman house in Capitol Hill, built in 1909. The original knob and tube wiring was still in place. The retired teachers who owned the home had received another estimate for $65,000. Marcus quoted them $45,000. The husband stared at the number. You're leaving $20,000 on the table. Marcus shrugged. I'm leaving you with safe wiring and enough money for your grandkids' college fund. That seems like a fair trade. They hired him. 6 weeks later, the job was finished. The couple cried when they saw the final result. Word spread. Soon, Coal Electric Services developed a reputation. Honest work, fair prices, exceptional quality. Marcus never bought a single advertisement. In Seattle, when you do good work, people talk. In the summer of 2023, Lena started helping at the company. She worked as an assistant for $15 an hour, learning basic electrical skills, stripping wire, reading circuit diagrams, testing voltage. Marcus taught her the same way he trained his apprentices, patiently, carefully, always emphasizing the risks. Electricity doesn't care about your intentions, he told her once. It only cares about the path you give it. Then he added, medicine's the same way. You can want to heal someone, but if you don't understand what you're doing, you can hurt them. Knowledge protects people. Lena, pulling wire through a conduit, glanced up at him. Is that why you never went back to school? She asked. Because you already had the knowledge? Marcus smiled. Partly, he said. Mostly because I had you and your mom. School would have meant less time with both of you. I didn't want that. Do you regret it? She asked. Marcus shook his head. Not even a little. September 3rd, 2025, Wednesday morning, 9:42 a.m. I was at work in the revenue cycle office at Swedish Medical Center. Marcus was at home reviewing estimates for a new job when FedEx knocked on the door. He signed for a thick envelope. International shipping. Return address. Ashworth and Klein International Law. Sydney, Australia. He called me immediately. Babe, we got something strange. Strange how? Lawyers from Australia. This envelope weighs like 2 pounds. Open it. I heard paper shifting through the phone. Then silence. Marcus? His voice finally came back. Flat. Distant. It's from my father. I drove home. After fighting Seattle traffic, breaking every speed limit along the way. Marcus was sitting at the kitchen table when I arrived. The letter lay spread out in front of him. He told me he had already read it 3 times and still couldn't quite believe what it said. I picked it up. Ashworth and Klein International Law. Sydney, Melbourne, Perth. September 3rd, 2025, Mr. Marcus Daniel Cole. 4521 Greenwood Avenue, Seattle, Washington. Estate of Victor Daniel Cole / notification of inheritance. Dear Mr. Cole, this firm represents your father, Victor Daniel Cole, born March 17, 1959, currently residing in Perth, Western Australia. We are writing to inform you that you have been named the sole beneficiary of Mr. Cole's estate, currently valued at approximately $12 million. Your father wishes to meet you prior to his passing. Enclosed you will find medical documentation concerning his present health condition, along with additional information requiring your urgent attention. Mr. Cole understands that this communication may come as a shock. He has instructed us to emphasize that the inheritance is irrevocable and unconditional. However, he respectfully asks for the opportunity to speak with you regarding a time-sensitive medical matter. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience. Respectfully, Jonathan Ashworth, Senior Partner. I looked up slowly. $12 million. Marcus didn't react. Keep reading, he said quietly. I flipped through the attachments. Estate summaries, drafts of the will, even a DNA test authorization form, as if Victor expected his own son might question paternity after 30 years. Then I reached the medical records. My hand stopped. I had spent 15 years coding hospital charts. I could read a medical file faster than most physicians. Patient, Victor Daniel Cole. DOB, March 17, 1959. Age, 66. Diagnosis, end-stage renal disease, stage 5, CKD. Current treatment, hemodialysis, 3 times per week. GFR, 8 milliliters per minute per 1. 73 square meters. Normal, above 90. Prognosis, without transplant, 6 to 18 months. Estimated wait time on Australian transplant list, 4 to 7 years. Priority level, low, due to age. I looked up from the file. He's dying. Marcus's expression was stone. He walked out when I was 10, he said quietly. I'm 40 now. 30 years later, he suddenly wants to talk because he's dying? There's more. I kept reading until I reached the transplant coordinator's note. Urgent living donor search initiated, June 2025, familial donor priority. Patient has 1 biological son, Marcus Cole, age 40, Seattle, USA. Extended family being investigated for potential compatibility. A chill ran through me. Marcus, he's not just looking for you. What do you mean? He's looking for a kidney. The next section was even worse, a private investigator's report. Sullivan and Pierce Investigations, Perth, July to August 2025. They had been watching us. Subject surveillance summary, primary subject, Marcus Daniel Cole, 40, master electrician, owner of Cole Electric Services Secondary. Subject, Hollis Price, Cole, 38, revenue cycle director, Swedish Medical Center, tertiary subject, Lena Marie Cole, 19, University of Washington, pre-med student residence, 4521 Greenwood Avenue, Seattle, Washington. Mortgage balance, approximately $127,000 household income, approximately $165,000 annually. Criminal history, none. Credit rating, excellent medical notes. Public records suggest excellent health. No major medical history found in public records. Blood type unknown. Recommendation, contact via legal representation. Direct approach likely rejected due to long-standing estrangement. There were photographs attached. Lena on the University of Washington campus, August 15th, first day of classes. Backpack over her shoulder, laughing with another student. Marcus at a job site installing solar panels. Me leaving the hospital with a coffee cup in my hand. They had been following us for 6 weeks. Marcus's hands started shaking when he reached Lena's photo. He's been watching our daughter. His voice wasn't angry, it was colder than that, protective. We need to talk to Lena, I said. September 10th. A follow-up email arrived from Ashworth and Klein. Mr. Cole, we understand the situation may feel overwhelming. Mr. Victor Cole does not expect forgiveness. However, he wishes to 1. Meet you and your family. All travel expenses will be covered. Perth or Seattle, your choice. 2. Establish an inheritance trust of $12 million, transferred upon his passing regardless of any other decision. 3. Discuss a matter of medical urgency. Mr. Cole requires a kidney transplant. Initial HLA indicators suggest that you and/or your daughter Lena may be compatible donors. He asks only for the opportunity to explain his circumstances and request your assistance. Time sensitive. Please respond within 14 days. Respectfully, Jonathan Ashworth. Marcus read the email twice. Then he looked at me. He wants Lena's kidney. I chose my words carefully. He says he wants to meet her. Marcus shook his head. The kidney is the real reason. If he dies, we still inherit the money. The trust is irreversible. He doesn't need our cooperation for that. So why meet us now? His eyes were steady. Because he needs something from us first. He was right. I knew he was right. What do we tell Lena? I asked. Marcus stared at the email for a long moment. Then he said quietly, the truth. All of it. And then we let her decide about her own body. That's what parents are supposed to do. On September 12th, Marcus sent a single-sentence reply. I need to speak with my daughter first. She's 19. The decision about her body belongs to her. The lawyers answered within an hour. Understood. We respect that completely. Please advise us how you wish to proceed. We had 1 week to decide what to tell her. September 13th, 2025. 8:30 p.m., kitchen table, the same table where we had eaten dinner together for 17 years. Lena had come home from the university for the weekend. She knew something was wrong. We almost never asked her to come back midweek. Marcus printed everything, the lawyer's letter, the medical records, the surveillance report. He laid the papers out across the table like evidence. Lena, he began, there's something you need to know about my father. I haven't talked about him much because there wasn't much good to say. Lena's expression stayed calm, analytical. I know he left when you were a kid, she said. Mom told me the basics when I was 14. Marcus nodded. He's dying. Kidney failure? Yes. And he's rich now? Apparently he built some pharmaceutical company in Australia. And he wants to meet us. Lena waited. She knew there was more. And, I said quietly, he needs a kidney transplant. He's been on dialysis since June. The transplant waiting list there is 4 to 7 years. At his age, he probably won't survive that long. Lena's eyes sharpened, her pre-med brain switching on. So he's looking for a living donor. Yes. A family match? Marcus slid the investigator's report across the table. He hired private investigators. They got your blood type and medical history without asking. Lena read through the surveillance summary. Her jaw tightened when she saw the photographs. He's been following me for 6 weeks, she said. Then she set the pages down. Her voice was calm, clinical. What's his HLA type? Marcus blinked. His what? Human leukocyte antigen, she explained. For transplant compatibility, you need matching blood type and tissue antigens. She looked up. Did they include that information? I found the medical file and handed it to her. Lena scanned the chart the way a physician reviews records. 90 seconds of silence. Finally, she spoke. He's O positive, she said. So am I. She closed the folder slowly. That means it's possible. Then she looked up at us. But blood type alone isn't enough. We'd have to run HLA typing to know if I'm actually a match. She looked at both of us. You want to know what I think? Always, I said. Lena answered slowly, carefully. I think I want to get tested. Not because that means I'll donate, because I want to know whether I even can. Information matters, right? And if I'm going to make a decision this big, I want facts, not guesses. Marcus's voice was cautious. And if you are a match? Then I decide after that, she said. But first I need the data. That was my daughter. 19 years old, already thinking like a scientist. I was terrified. And proud. Both at once. September 15th. University of Washington Medical Center, Transplant Institute. Lena insisted on going into the first appointment by herself. I'm an adult, she said. I can handle a blood draw. I still went with her. So did Marcus. He took the morning off and sat beside me in the waiting room. The transplant coordinator was Olivia Bennett, an RN, maybe mid-40s. Kind eyes, efficient voice. The kind of person who could explain something frightening without making it sound casual. She called Lena back. About 20 minutes later, Lena came out with a small bandage in the crook of her elbow. Phase 1 done, she said. Blood type confirmation. Basic metabolic panel. Pregnancy test. Pregnancy test? Marcus's voice jumped half an octave. Lena rolled her eyes. That's standard for female donors, Dad. Relax. It was negative. Olivia stepped into the waiting area with a clipboard in hand. Lena, we should have your initial results in a few days. If everything looks good, we'll move on to HLA typing. That usually takes about a week, followed by cross-match testing. The full evaluation process normally takes 2 to 4 months, but given Mr. Cole's condition, we can move faster. How much faster? I asked. 6 to 8 weeks for full clearance, Olivia said. But that still includes a psychological evaluation, meetings with an independent donor advocate, and ethics committee review. Lena nodded like she was scheduling a routine lab. When will I know if I'm actually compatible? HLA results should be back by September 25th, Olivia said. We'll call you. September 25th, 3:17 p.m. I was in the middle of a budget meeting when my phone buzzed. Lena, HLA results are back. I'm a 5/6 antigen match. Coordinator says that's excellent for a grandparent-grandchild donor. I excused myself from the meeting and called her immediately. 5 out of 6? I asked. HLA-A, 2 out of 2, HLA-B, 2 out of 2, HLA-DR, 1 out of 2. Overall, 5 of 6 antigens match. That's really good. It is, she said. Statistically, it's better than most unrelated donors. Her voice was calm, clinical, but underneath it, I could hear uncertainty. How do you feel? I asked. There was a long pause. I don't know yet, she admitted. Can you and Dad come to campus this weekend? I need to talk through everything. Of course. September 28th, Lena's dorm room, University of Washington. When Marcus and I arrived, Lena had transformed her desk into something that looked halfway between a research lab and a courtroom. Printed medical journal articles, highlighted studies, notes in the margins. She stood in front of them like she was about to deliver a lecture. Okay, she said. I needed to understand this completely, so I did the reading. Marcus and I sat on her dorm bed while Lena remained standing, full professor mode. Living kidney donation is major surgery, she began. Laparoscopic nephrectomy. They remove one kidney through a small incision, usually 3 to 4 inches. Hospital stay is 2 to 3 days. Full recovery is usually 4 to 6 weeks. She picked up one of the printouts. My risks, about a 1 in 3,000 chance of death during surgery. Small, but real. My long-term risk of kidney disease goes up slightly. Not dramatically, but it does increase. And if I ever need a transplant myself, I'd be lower priority because I'd only have one kidney left. Marcus had gone pale. 1 in 3,000? It's comparable to the risk of a C-section, Lena said. Low, but not zero. She glanced down at another page. And if I ever want children, having one kidney increases the risk of preeclampsia and gestational hypertension. Still manageable, but definitely something to monitor. And for Victor? I asked. She flipped to another section. If he gets a kidney from a living donor with a 5/6 match, his 5-year survival rate is somewhere around 85 to 90%. That's significantly better than staying on dialysis or waiting for a deceased donor. Then she sat down. So this is where I'm stuck. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Go on. Medically, I could do this, Lena said. The risk to me is relatively low. The benefit to him is huge. She hesitated. But? Marcus prompted softly. But he's still a stranger, she said. I don't know him. He hurt you. And there's $12 million attached to all of this, which makes me wonder if I'm being… She trailed off. Coerced, I said for her. Yeah. Marcus rested his elbows on his knees and looked at her carefully. Len, the money is ours either way. The trust is irrevocable. If Victor dies and you say no, the money still comes to me, which means it still comes to this family. You're not deciding between helping him and getting paid. He paused. You're deciding between helping him and protecting yourself. Lena looked at him. What would you do? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he answered honestly. I don't know. She waited. He left when I was 10, Marcus said. He didn't write, didn't call. Nothing for 30 years. Then he shows up rich, dying, and needing something. Part of me wants to tell him to go to hell. And the other part? Lena asked. Marcus looked down at his hands. The other part still remembers being 10 years old and wondering if I did something wrong. If maybe I wasn't good enough to stay for. His voice was steady, but low. And sometimes I wonder if meeting him would answer that. Or just make it hurt worse. The room went quiet. Lena turned to me. Mom, what do you think I should do? I took a breath before answering. I think you should choose the decision you can live with, I said. If you donate, you might spend years asking whether you did it for the right reason. If you don't, you might wonder whether you should have. I looked at her. There isn't a perfect answer here, so pick the one that lets you sleep at night. October 1st. An email arrived from Dr. Elaine Foster, chair of the Transplant Ethics Committee at the University of Washington Medical Center. Dear Lena, your transplant evaluation has been referred for Ethics Committee review due to the complexity of your case. The concerns are as follows. 1. You have no established relationship with the intended recipient, your estranged grandfather. 2. The inheritance of $12 million creates possible coercive pressure. 3. You are a pre-med student, which may increase perceived moral obligation to save a life. 4. The family history is unusually complicated. The recipient abandoned your father approximately 30 years ago. 5. At age 19, you are legally an adult, but still unusually young to make a permanent medical decision of this magnitude. Required next steps. Independent donor advocate assigned, Adrian Park, MSW, psychological evaluation scheduled, October 8th, Ethics Committee hearing scheduled, October 15th at 2 p.m. 2-week cooling-off period following the hearing before final consent can be accepted. You are required to attend. Family members may attend if you choose. Sincerely, Dr. Elaine Foster, Chief Ethics Officer, University of Washington Medical Center. Lena forwarded the email to our family group chat. Lena, so apparently my body is now a committee decision. Marcus, want us there? Lena, yeah, I might need backup, me. We'll be there October 8th, 2025. Wednesday morning. I woke up to 17 missed calls. Marcus had 12. Lena had 47. The first email I opened was from the hospital's public relations department. Subject: Media inquiry regarding your family. Please call ASAP. My stomach dropped. I called Lena first. She answered on the first ring. Mom, she said, we're on the front page of the Seattle Times. What? Front page. Above the fold, there's even a photo of the transplant center. I opened the news site on my phone, and there it was. Disgraced doctor, secret fortune. Australian pharmaceutical mogul seeks granddaughter for life-saving transplant. By Nathan Brooks, investigative reporter. Seattle. A complex medical ethics case unfolding at the University of Washington Medical Center has reignited debate about organ donation, family obligation, and the influence of wealth in medical decisions. Victor Cole, 66, a former Washington physician whose medical license was revoked in 1993 for illegal prescription practices, has since built a pharmaceutical consulting empire in Australia worth an estimated $12 million. Now dying of kidney failure, Cole has contacted the family he abandoned 3 decades ago, specifically his 19-year-old granddaughter, Lena Cole, a pre-med student at the University of Washington. Lena, who has never met her grandfather, is reportedly a strong transplant match. The situation is further complicated by the fact that Cole has named his estranged son Marcus as sole heir to his fortune. Some ethics experts argue the inheritance could create pressure for donation. The article ran nearly 1,200 words. Quotes from transplant ethicists at Stanford and NYU. Details about Marcus's childhood, a sidebar explaining the risks of living kidney donation. Then, buried halfway down the page, one paragraph that made my chest tighten. Adding another layer to the case, Lena's maternal grandparents, Dr. Eugene Price and Dr. Ruth Price, prominent Seattle physicians, disowned their daughter 19 years ago after she became pregnant with Lena. They could not be reached for comment. My phone rang. "Marcus, did you see it?" "I'm reading it right now," he said. "How the hell did this get out?" I scrolled back to the byline. Nathan Brooks, veteran investigative journalist, Pulitzer finalist a few years earlier. "Insurance paperwork," I said slowly, thinking it through. Lena's student insurance forms for the transplant evaluation. They would have included family medical history. Marcus was quiet. "Does it even matter how it leaked?" he said finally. "Lena's being harassed. Her Instagram exploded overnight. 15,000 follow requests. Her roommate said a TV crew showed up outside the dorm." "Where is she?" "Driving home. She's skipping classes today. I told her to come here." "Lock the doors," I said. "Turn off her phone. I'm leaving work." The rest of the morning was chaos. I called hospital compliance, patient advocacy, university administration. Eventually, we pieced together what happened. On September 28th, Lena had filled out a routine insurance verification form for her transplant evaluation. One question asked about family medical history. She wrote, "Grandfather, paternal, end-stage renal disease, currently on dialysis, Australia." The form went to Pacific Source, the student health insurer. Most claims there are processed by contract workers. One of those workers, whose name we never learned, Googled Victor Cole plus Australia plus kidney failure. He found business articles about Victor's pharmaceutical consulting empire. Then he sold the information to a journalist. Price, $500. Technically, it wasn't a HIPAA violation. The form wasn't Victor's medical record, just a passing mention. He never accessed Victor's medical file, only the insurance note mentioning kidney failure. A legal gray area. Legal, but wrong. By noon, the article had 2.3 million views online. Reddit exploded. Top comment, nearly 18,000 upvotes. "If my rich grandpa abandoned my dad, I wouldn't give him a tissue, let alone a kidney." Reply, 12,000 upvotes. "But he's dying, she has 2 kidneys, she's pre-med. Isn't saving lives the point?" Another reply, 15,000 upvotes. "She's 19 and there's $12 million involved. That's coercion." Twitter was worse. A famous medical ethicist with hundreds of thousands of followers posted, "Living organ donation must be purely altruistic. Financial incentive turns organs into commodities. This case should be stopped." A Christian influencer wrote, "Honor thy father and grandfather. This young woman can save a life. Pray she chooses mercy." A feminist account responded, "A 19-year-old woman's body is not public property. Not her uterus, not her kidneys. Hers. End of discussion." Even Lena's classmates were divided. Some thought she should donate. Future doctors save lives. Others thought the situation was exploitative. She didn't owe Victor anything. Her academic advisor called her that afternoon. "Lena, do you need to take a leave of absence?" the advisor asked. "This level of attention is overwhelming." Marcus later told me Lena answered quietly, "I just want to study in peace. Is that too much to ask? Apparently it was. October 9th, 2025, 6:15 p.m., Marcus was cooking dinner. Lena had retreated to her old bedroom upstairs, door closed, trying to ignore the world. Then the doorbell rang. I opened it. My mother stood on the porch. Rain dripped from her umbrella. In her hand was a folded copy of the Seattle Times. She looked older than I remembered. 62 years old, but she looked closer to 70. Gray threaded through her hair. Her hands trembled slightly. Her expensive coat couldn't hide how thin she'd become. "Hollis," she said softly. "I saw the article." I didn't move, didn't speak. "Can I come in?" she asked. "No." "Please," she said. "I need to talk to you about Lena." "You don't have a granddaughter," I said flatly. "Your assistant told me that in 2006, remember?" Her face collapsed. "I was wrong," she whispered. "We were wrong. Hollis, please." Marcus appeared behind me, silent, arms crossed. My mother noticed him. For a moment, something flickered across her face, shame mixed with stubborn pride. "Mrs. Price," Marcus said calmly, "you should leave." "I need to talk to my daughter." "Your daughter asked you to leave." My mother's voice cracked. "Your father is sick," she said. "Parkinson's disease. Early stages, but it's getting worse. His medication costs $3,000 a month. We're struggling, Hollis. And when I saw the article, saw Lena might be pulled into all this." "You saw $12 million, I interrupted. "That's what you saw." "No," she insisted. "I saw my granddaughter being pressured into—" "You don't get to protect her now," I said. "You had 19 years. 19 birthdays. 19 Christmas mornings. 19 first days of school. You weren't there. You chose not to be. I'm trying to make things right." I actually laughed. It came out sharp and bitter. "Make things right? You haven't even apologized. You just appeared when it became convenient, when there's money involved, when you can show up and pretend to be the worried grandmother in front of an audience." Marcus stepped forward, his voice cutting cleanly through the tension. "Dr. Price, let me remind you of something," he said calmly. "You told Hollis she was throwing away 4 generations of healers for me. You called my family disgraced. You said I was beneath your standards." My mother opened her mouth to respond. Marcus didn't stop. "And now you want to associate with that disgrace," he continued, "because there's money attached to it. Because the father you used as proof that I was worthless turned out to be richer than you." The porch went quiet. "Get off my porch," Marcus said. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. My mother looked at me again. "Hollis, please don't shut me out again." "I didn't shut you out," I said quietly. "You shut me out. I'm just closing the door you left open 19 years ago." Then I shut the door. She didn't leave right away. I could hear her crying through the wood. After a moment, her voice rose, loud enough to reach us. "Your father has Parkinson's disease," she called out. "Early stages, but it's progressing. The medication alone costs $3,000 a month. We have savings, but they won't last forever. And if Lena donates, if your family becomes publicly connected to the Coles, everyone will know you chose them over us. Do you realize what that will do to our reputation?" Marcus yanked the door open again. Anger flashed across his face. "Your reputation?" he repeated. "That's what this is about? Not Lena's safety. Not Hollis's feelings. Your reputation." My mother flushed. "I've spent 30 years building—" "You spent 30 years building a lie," Marcus cut in. "That you were a good mother. That you were compassionate. That family mattered to you. The article exposed that lie, and now you're here trying to control the story." He stepped back. "Leave now," he said quietly, "or I call the police." My mother turned and walked down the steps. She climbed into her Lexus, still immaculate, still projecting the same polished success. As she drove away, she rolled down the window and shouted back toward the house. "If Lena donates, this will follow you forever. The daughter who crawled back to a disgraced family for money. Is that what you want?" I didn't answer. But in my head I thought, I chose them 19 years ago. You just never noticed. October 15th, 2025. 2 p.m. University of Washington Medical Center. Center for Ethics in Healthcare. 11th floor. Conference room C. Glass walls overlooked Seattle. Rain streaked across the windows, turning the city below gray and blurred. 7 committee members sat at the long table. Dr. Elaine Foster, Chair and Chief Ethics Officer. Dr. David Kumar, Transplant Surgeon. Lisa Tran, MSW Social Worker. Reverend Michael O'Brien, Community Ethicist. Judge Sarah Hriss, Retired Legal Advisor. Maria Gonzalez, RN, Patient Advocate. Dr. Samuel Green, Psychiatrist. Observers filled the back rows. 8 medical students attending for ethics training, 2 credentialed journalists, and Adrian Park, Lena's independent donor advocate. Lena sat in the front row, Marcus on her left, me on her right. At the front of the room, a large screen displayed a live Zoom connection from Perth. Victor Cole appeared on screen. Behind him was a hospital room in Fiona Stanley Hospital's renal unit. His face was gaunt. A dialysis catheter ran from his neck. Oxygen tubing looped under his nose. This was the first time Marcus had seen his father in 30 years. Dr. Foster opened the meeting. This ethics committee has been convened to determine whether Lena Cole can give informed, voluntary consent to act as a living kidney donor for her grandfather, Victor Cole. She paused. This committee cannot force Lena to donate, nor can we prevent her from doing so. Our responsibility is simply to ensure that her autonomy is protected. Then she looked directly at Lena. Do you understand why you're here? Yes, Lena said calmly. And you've been assigned an independent donor advocate, Adrian Park, who has no affiliation with the hospital or your family. That's correct. Then we'll begin, Dr. Foster said. Mr. Cole, you asked to speak. The floor is yours. Victor's voice came through the speakers, rough and thin, but steady. Thank you, Dr. Foster. Members of the committee. Lena. Marcus. He coughed and took a breath. I'm speaking from Perth. I understand you're deciding whether my granddaughter can freely consent to donating her kidney. He looked down for a moment. I want to make something very clear. I do not expect her to donate. I lost the right to expect anything when I abandoned Marcus 30 years ago. Marcus's hands tightened around the armrests of his chair. Victor continued. I was a coward. I wasn't addicted to drugs. I was addicted to escaping my mistakes. When my license was revoked in 1993 for illegal prescriptions, I ran. I left my family. I left my son. I chose shame over responsibility. He paused again. I rebuilt a fortune in Australia through pharmaceutical consulting, but money doesn't rebuild trust. It doesn't undo leaving a 10-year-old boy to grow up without a father. His eyes lifted toward the camera. Marcus, if you're listening, you deserved better than the father you got. The room was completely silent. You deserved someone who stayed, Victor said softly. Someone who showed up. The man you became, the father you are to Lena, that didn't come from my DNA. That came from you. No one spoke. Finally, Dr. Foster asked, Mr. Cole, what happens to the inheritance if Lena declines to donate? She inherits it anyway through Marcus, Victor answered. The trust is irrevocable. My lawyers can confirm that. I made peace with dying. What I haven't made peace with is never apologizing to my son. This hearing is probably the closest I'll ever get. Judge Hriss nodded. For the record, she said, I have reviewed the trust documents. Mr. Cole is correct. The inheritance is not conditional on Lena's decision. Dr. Foster acknowledged the statement. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Please remain available. At that moment, the door opened. My mother walked in. Lena didn't turn around. Marcus's jaw tightened. A cold feeling slid down my spine. Dr. Foster frowned. This is a closed proceeding. I'm Dr. Ruth Price, my mother announced loudly, head of pediatrics at Seattle Children's Hospital. I am Lena's maternal grandmother, and I have serious concerns about what is happening here. Dr. Foster's expression hardened. Dr. Price, unless you have information directly relevant to Lena's medical capacity to consent, I must ask you to leave. I have concerns about coercion, my mother said, stepping forward. Lena is 19, legally an adult, yes, but neurologically the prefrontal cortex doesn't fully mature until around 25. She's a pre-med student, meaning she has been trained to believe that saving lives is always the right decision. She turned to the committee. And let's not ignore the obvious. A $12 million inheritance creates immense pressure. The medical community should not be endorsing a system where estranged relatives can effectively purchase organs through inheritance arrangements. Lena stood up. I'm not even sure what to call you, she said, looking at my mother. You haven't been my grandmother for 19 years. You don't suddenly become my grandmother now just because there's money involved or reporters watching. My mother opened her mouth to respond. Lena didn't let her. You want to talk about medical socialization? She continued. I chose pre-med because my mom showed me that you can work in medicine without being cruel. She codes surgeries so patients don't go bankrupt. That's healing too. Her tone remained calm, analytical. You're worried about coercion? You threw my mother out when she was pregnant with me. You refused to meet me. You told her she didn't have a daughter anymore. The only pressure I feel right now is from people who think they have a right to control my choices. She held my mother's gaze. People like you. The room fell completely silent. My mother's face had drained of color. Judge Hriss spoke quietly. Dr. Price, unless you have information directly relevant to Lena's medical capacity to consent, I ask that you refrain from further commentary. My mother quietly moved to a seat in the back row. She didn't speak again. Dr. Samuel Green opened a file. I conducted a 90-minute psychological evaluation of Lena Cole on October 12th, he said. This is a standard procedure for living donor candidates. He read from his notes. Cognitive capacity, intact. Lena demonstrates an advanced understanding of medical risk, including surgical mortality risk, long-term kidney disease risk, and potential pregnancy complications. He turned a page. Coercion screening. No evidence of family pressure. Lena reports that her parents told her directly, quote, your choice, no judgment. She reports feeling supported regardless of the outcome. Another pause. Financial motive assessment. Lena is aware of the inheritance. When asked whether it influenced her thinking, she stated, quote, I don't make medical decisions based on money. If I did, donating for $12 million would be easy, but I still might not. That's the point. A few people in the room shifted slightly. Dr. Green looked up. Psychological readiness. Lena is conflicted, but appropriately so. She is weighing several ethical factors: family responsibility, bodily autonomy, mortality risk, and long-term health consequences. This indicates healthy decision-making, not impairment. He closed the folder. My professional opinion? Lena Cole has full psychological capacity to either consent to donation or refuse it. No additional counseling is required unless she personally requests it. Dr. Foster turned toward Lena. Lena, you've now heard statements from your grandfather, your grandmother, and Dr. Green's psychological evaluation. This committee's purpose is not to tell you what to do. Our job is simply to ensure that you are free to make your own decision. She paused. Do you feel free to make that choice? Lena exhaled slowly. I feel observed, she said honestly. But yes, I'm free. I'll probably feel a lot freer once everyone stops turning my life into a national ethics debate. A few of the medical students chuckled quietly. Even Dr. Foster allowed herself a small smile. Understood, she said. Before we conclude, is there anything you'd like to add? Actually, Lena said, yes, and I raised my hand. Dr. Foster, may I speak? She looked slightly surprised. Mrs. Cole, you are not a required participant in this hearing. I understand, I said. But I do have information relevant to the question of outside pressure on Lena, specifically who has actually been pressuring her. Dr. Foster considered for a moment. Go ahead. I stood up and opened the folder I had brought with me. The clerk passed copies down the committee table. I would like to submit several documents. Document 1. An email sent late in the pregnancy. The message appeared on the screen. From Hollis Price. To Dr. Eugene Price, Dr. Ruth Price. Subject. Please. Mom, Dad, Lena is due soon. The ultrasound says she's healthy. Marcus just got promoted to journeyman electrician. We found a small apartment in Ballard. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to meet your granddaughter once, please. Hollis. I nodded toward the next page. Response, the following morning. The reply appeared. Dr. and Dr. Price have asked me to inform you that they do not have a granddaughter. Please do not contact this email address again. Signed, Claire Whitaker, Executive Assistant. The room went quiet. My parents had zero contact with Lena for 19 years, I continued. No birthday cards, no Christmas gifts, no acknowledgement that she existed. I handed the clerk the next document. Document 2, Seattle Times article, October 8, 2025. The highlighted paragraph appeared on screen. Lena's maternal grandparents, Dr. Eugene Price and Dr. Ruth Price, prominent Seattle physicians, could not be reached for comment. They had no comment, I said calmly, until they saw the words $12 million inheritance. Document 3, Text Message Exchange, October 9, 2025. The screenshot appeared. Ruth Price to Hollis Price. We should discuss Lena's decision as a family. Your father and I have medical expertise that could guide her. Hollis Price to Ruth Price. You're not family. You made that clear 19 years ago. I placed the final document on the table. Document 4, Emergency Room Record, November 2006. The clerk read aloud. Patient, Hollis Price, 19F. Status, 7 months pregnant. Chief complaint, abdominal cramping, stress-induced social history, recently displaced from family home, no family support. Diagnosis, Braxton Hicks contractions caused by severe stress. I looked up at the committee. I was 7 months pregnant and living in Marcus's truck, I said. The ER social worker asked whether I had family support. I told her no. My voice remained steady. My parents are physicians who abandoned a patient, their own daughter. I glanced toward the screen where Victor's frail face still appeared. Victor Cole is a disgraced doctor trying to apologize. I paused. I don't forgive either of them. But only one of them has been honest about who they are. My mother sat in the back row with her head lowered, quietly crying. Dr. Foster studied the documents for a moment, then looked up at me. Mrs. Cole, thank you for providing this context, she said. It's illuminating. She turned toward the rest of the committee. Are there any questions for Mrs. Cole? No one spoke. Very well, she said. Let's proceed to Lena's statement. Dr. Foster addressed Lena directly. Lena, you have now been medically cleared and psychologically evaluated. This committee finds that you have full capacity to make this decision without coercion. She paused. The question before you is simple. Do you consent to donate your kidney to Victor Cole? Lena stood. She looked first at the committee, then at the screen where Victor appeared, and finally at Marcus and me. Then she answered. No. The word hung in the room for a moment. Not because of the money, she continued, and not because of my grandparents, either set of them. Her voice remained calm and steady. I'm 19. I want to have children someday. I want to finish medical school. And I want to know that if my kidney ever fails, I still have a second one. She drew a breath. I want to become a doctor who saves lives. But I can't save everyone. And I shouldn't have to damage my own body just to prove that I'm compassionate. Then she looked at the screen. Victor, I'm sorry. I hope you find another donor. But it won't be me. Marcus stood immediately and wrapped Lena in a hug so tight she nearly disappeared into him. I squeezed her hand. I'm proud of you, I whispered. On the screen, Victor nodded slowly. His eyes were wet. Thank you for even considering it, Lena, he said quietly. That's more than I deserved. Dr. Foster rose from her chair. This committee finds that Lena Cole has made an informed, voluntary decision to decline donation. Her autonomy is affirmed. She tapped the gavel lightly. This hearing is concluded. As people began filing out, one of the journalists approached Lena. May I quote you for a follow-up article? Lena looked exhausted, but her answer was firm. "You can quote this," she said. "My body, my choice, end of story." October 15th, 4:30 p.m. We were driving home on Interstate 5 after the hearing. Marcus drove. I sat in the passenger seat. Lena was in the back with her headphones on, staring quietly out the window. For almost 20 minutes, none of us spoke. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. "You okay, Len?" She pulled out one earbud. "I think so," she said. "I keep waiting to feel guilty, but mostly I just feel tired." "Guilt is something other people try to hand you," I said. "You don't have to carry it." She hesitated. "Do you think Victor hates me?" Marcus glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "No," he said softly. "I think he understands exactly what it means to make a difficult choice and live with it." Lena nodded and put the earbud back in. A moment later, my phone buzzed. An email from Ashworth and Klein. "Mrs. Cole," Mr. Cole asked that I pass along a message to Lena. "Thank you for your honesty. The inheritance will proceed exactly as written. There are no conditions and no resentment. Respectfully, Jonathan Ashworth." I handed the phone to Marcus. He read the message and nodded once. The rest of the drive home passed in silence. October 17th. The Seattle Times published a follow-up story. She said no. College student declines millionaire grandfather's transplant request by Nathan Brooks. In a decision challenging traditional ideas of family obligation, 19-year-old Lena Cole declined to donate a kidney to her estranged grandfather, despite being a strong medical match. "My body, my choice. End of story," Lena said after the ethics hearing. The article was surprisingly balanced. It quoted the ethics committee confirming Lena's right to choose. It mentioned my mother's disruption, and it included the documents I had presented. The story reached 1.8 million views, less than the first article, but it spread even faster. Public opinion shifted. One Reddit comment with 45,000 upvotes read, "She's 19 and just taught the entire medical establishment that no is a complete sentence." A bioethics professor wrote a viral thread. "Lena Cole's case will likely be studied in medical ethics courses for decades. Bodily autonomy is not conditional on wealth, family, or public pressure." A feminist journal published a headline, "Radical Self-Preservation: What Lena Cole Teaches Us About Medical Autonomy." Lena made exactly one Instagram post. Her first in 2 weeks. "I'm not a headline. I'm a student. Please let me study in peace." The response was overwhelmingly supportive. Then she turned off her phone, returned to campus, and focused on the midterms she had missed. Straight A's. October 20th. My mother texted me. "Ruth. Hollis, please can we talk? Not about Victor. About us." Me. "There is no us. There hasn't been for 19 years. Ruth. "I made a mistake. Your father is sick. We don't have much time." Me. "You had 19 years. Lena had 19 birthdays, 19 Christmases, 19 first days of school. You chose not to be there. Don't use Dad's Parkinson's to guilt me now." Ruth. "I'm trying to make amends." Me. "Amends require accountability. You haven't apologized. You just appeared when it became convenient." Ruth. "Please don't shut me out again." Me. "I didn't shut you out. You shut me out. I'm just closing the door you left open." After that, I blocked her number, blocked her email, blocked every account I could find. Marcus did the same. Lena left her unblocked. "In case of an emergency," she said. But she muted the conversation. No notifications. Later, she asked me quietly, "Do you think you'll ever talk to them again?" I thought about it for a long moment. "I don't know," I said finally. "But I do know I don't owe them forgiveness just because they finally realized what they lost." Fair, Lena said. November 2025. Victor's condition declined quickly. His lawyers kept us informed, short, respectful messages that never crossed our boundaries. Then on December 15th, another email arrived. "Marcus, Mr. Cole's doctors now estimate his remaining time in weeks rather than months. He remains on the Australian transplant waiting list, but given his deterioration, a match in time is unlikely. He asked me to pass along one message. Thank you for listening. That's all I needed. We will notify you of any developments. December 28th. Another email arrived. Marcus, Mr. Cole is dictating this message. His hands are no longer steady enough to type. Attached was a voice memo transcribed into text. Marcus, I don't have much time left. I want you to know that Lena made the right decision. I'm relieved she said no. Not because I wanted to die, but because I didn't want her carrying me on her shoulders for the rest of her life. She deserves to move forward without that weight. The money is yours. Use it however you see fit. I hope some of it helps Lena through medical school. Not because she owes me anything, but because she's already a better healer than I ever was. And she hasn't even begun. I'm sorry I wasn't your father. You became a better man without me than you ever would have with me. Victor Marcus read the message alone in the garage, his workshop, the place he always went when he needed to think. I found him there about an hour later. His tools were scattered across the workbench, untouched. He'd been crying. He's right, Marcus said quietly when he saw me. Lena made the right choice. I sat beside him without speaking. I'm not glad he's dying, Marcus continued, but I'm glad she said no. She chose herself. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. That's what I've been trying to teach her since the day she was born. That she matters. That she's enough. That she never has to sacrifice herself just to prove her worth. He looked down at the floor. She learned it. That's all I ever wanted. January 15th, 2026. Victor Cole died in Perth. Age 66. Cause of death: complications from end-stage renal disease. The notification came by email from the law firm. Professional. Brief. No drama. January 20th, 2026. The inheritance was processed. $12 million was transferred to Marcus Daniel Cole. No conditions. No disputes. The trust included a final note. This is not payment. This is apology. February 2026. We sat around the kitchen table, the same table where we'd first talked about Victor months earlier. Marcus spread the documents across the surface: estate summaries, bank transfers, investment accounts. We need to decide what to do with this, he said. It's your inheritance, I told him. Your choice. Marcus shook his head. It's our family, he said. So it's our choice. Lena, home from the university for the weekend, leaned forward. What do you want to do? Marcus had clearly already thought about it. Of course he had. I want to make sure you never have to choose between medical school and debt, he said to Lena. And I want to help people who end up in the same situation your mom did. So we made a plan. Lena's education fund, $600,000. Enough to cover the rest of her undergraduate degree, medical school tuition, housing, and living expenses. No loans, no debt. Freedom. Coal electric expansion, $1.2 million. Marcus planned to hire 5 additional electricians and expand the business. The focus would be rewiring aging homes in low-income neighborhoods, where families often couldn't afford critical safety upgrades. Sliding scale pricing. No one turned away. New beginnings. Family fund, $2.5 million. Grants for young parents who had been rejected or abandoned by their families. Housing deposits, medical expenses, childcare, education support, no strings attached. Family emergency fund, $1 million. Because life always finds new ways to surprise you. Charitable contributions, $3. $4 million split between transplant research at the University of Washington Medical Center, foster care support programs, advocacy groups expanding healthcare coverage, long-term investment, $3.3 million savings for the future, Marcus's retirement, maybe Lena's children someday. The first grant from the New Beginnings Fund went to a 22-year-old woman named Ashley. She was pregnant and had been kicked out by her religious parents after refusing to give the baby up for adoption. She wrote in her application, "Your family showed me that love doesn't require DNA. I want my baby to know that too." Grant amount, $15,000, first month's rent, security deposit, medical bills, baby supplies. Marcus met her once to hand over the check. She cried. "You don't have to thank me," Marcus told her gently. "Just be the parent you wish you'd had." March 2026. Lena returned to the University of Washington. Campus life had mostly returned to normal. The news cycle had moved on. She was just another pre-med student again. Her bioethics professor asked if she would give a guest lecture about her experience. Lena declined. "I'd rather write about it than talk about it," she said. Instead, she wrote an essay for Ethics 301. The assignment prompt: describe a controversial ethical decision you made. Lena's opening line read, "I said no to my dying grandfather. The world called me selfish. I call it survival. Both can be true." She received an A+. Her professor asked permission to submit the essay to the Journal of Medical Ethics student section. Lena agreed. Summer 2026. Lena applied for a competitive internship with the University of Washington Medical Center Ethics Committee. She got it. On her first day, Dr. Elaine Foster, the same doctor who had chaired Lena's hearing months earlier, shook her hand. "I'm glad you're here," Dr. Foster said. "We need people who understand that saying no is just as important as saying yes." Lena smiled. "That's what I want future doctors to understand," she replied. "Patients are allowed to refuse, even family, especially when it's hard." "Good," Dr. Foster said. "Start by observing next week's donor evaluation. See if you can spot any coercion warning signs." Lena was already taking notes. April 2026. One night I did something I had never done before. I searched online for Victor Cole's obituary. I found it on the Perth Remembrance Gardens memorial page. Photos of Victor appeared in different stages of his life. A young man graduating from medical school in 1985, a middle-aged businessman accepting an industry award in Australia, and a recent photograph, older, thinner, tired. Below the photos was a digital guestbook. People had left messages. Brilliant consultant, tough negotiator, generous mentor, a complicated man, flawed but honest about his flaws. I scrolled to the bottom and clicked "Leave a message." Then I typed, "Victor, I never met you. You hurt my husband in ways I will never fully understand. But you also gave our family something unexpected. The truth. You never pretended that money erased your mistakes. You never demanded forgiveness. You let Lena say no. That was more respect than my own parents ever showed me. I don't forgive you for abandoning Marcus, but I respect that you never abandoned your apology. Rest in peace. Hollis Price Cole." I clicked submit. I never told Marcus about it. A few days later, he casually mentioned that he had visited the memorial page. "I saw your message," he said. I froze. "I'm sorry. I should have asked you first." "No," Marcus said quickly. "It was good, honest, fair." He paused for a moment. "I don't forgive him either, but I'm glad you wrote it. It was more kindness than he deserved, which I guess is what grace actually looks like." April 18th, 2026. 7:30 p.m. Lena was home for a few days. It was her last night before heading back to the University of Washington. Marcus made lasagna, his specialty. The whole kitchen smelled like garlic, basil, and melted cheese, the kind of smell that makes a house feel like home. Lena stood at the sink beside him, drying dishes while he rinsed them. I leaned against the counter and watched them, the family we had built from nothing. Lena turned toward me, holding a plate and a dish towel. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you ever regret choosing Dad instead of your parents?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Finally, I said, "I regret that they forced me to make that choice. That's not the same thing." Lena tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "Regret isn't about the decision I made," I explained. "It's about the situation they created. I chose love. I chose dignity. I chose a partner who stayed when things were hard. I don't regret any of that." I dried my hands on a towel. I just regret that my parents couldn't see past their pride. Lena nodded slowly. Do you think they'll ever apologize? Like, a real apology? I honestly don't know, I said. But I'm not putting my life on hold waiting for it. From the stove, Marcus called out, "You two are my family. That's enough for me." Lena smiled. Is it weird, she said, that I don't feel like I'm missing anything? Like, I know people expect me to want grandparents, but I never really felt that whole. You didn't miss anything, I told her gently. Love isn't about biology. It's about who actually shows up. Later that night, after Lena had gone to bed, Marcus and I sat on the front porch. Spring rain fell softly, the familiar rhythm of a Seattle evening. Marcus leaned back in his chair. We did okay, didn't we? I smiled. We did better than okay. We built something they couldn't tear apart. He nodded. Lena's going to be an incredible doctor someday. She already is, I said. She just hasn't earned the diploma yet. Marcus reached over and took my hand. His electrician's hands, rough, warm, steady. We sat quietly, listening to the rain. People sometimes ask me if I have regrets. And the truth is, I do. I regret that my parents couldn't see beyond their pride. I regret that Victor waited 30 years to say he was sorry. I regret that Lena had to face a decision no 19-year-old should ever have to make. But I don't regret Marcus. I don't regret Lena. And I don't regret learning to say no to people who only valued me when I served their expectations. My parents taught me that family was about bloodlines and legacy. Marcus taught me that family is about showing up. And Lena taught me something even stronger. That saying no, even when the whole world is watching, can be the purest form of self-respect. My name is Hollis Price. I'm 38 years old, and I haven't spoken to my parents in 19 years. And honestly, we're all okay with that. And if there is one thing this story taught me, it's this. Family is not defined by blood, titles, or reputation. It's defined by who stays when things fall apart. My parents believed legacy meant protecting a name, a profession, a perfect image of success. But life has a way of stripping those illusions away. When everything is reduced to the simplest truth, what matters isn't status, it's character. Marcus showed up when I had nothing but 2 garbage bags and a future everyone else called a mistake. He showed up every day after that, through overtime shifts, late nights, broken wiring, and the quiet work of building a home. That kind of loyalty is a form of healing no medical degree can teach. And Lena reminded me that compassion does not require self-destruction. The world will often try to convince you that sacrifice is the price of being a good person. But real compassion begins with respecting your own boundaries. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can say is yes, but sometimes the bravest thing is say no. If this story means anything, I hope it reminds you of this. The people who truly love you will never ask you to disappear in order to prove your worth. Before this story ends, I want to thank you for staying here and listening all the way through. Stories like this are not just about conflict or dramatic moments. They're about the choices people make when life becomes complicated and painful. And sometimes those choices are what shape who we become. If this story meant something to you, I hope you'll take a moment to like the video, share, miss the next story. Your support truly helps these stories travel further than I ever imagined. I'd also love to hear from you. What would you have done in Emma's place? Would you have made the same decision or chosen differently? And what time it is there. I'm always amazed by how far these stories reach. Thank you again for being here, for listening, and for being part of this community.